Hello, and welcome to the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. We're gonna get into my review, my debrief, if you will, of last week's Atlantis cruise on board Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas, sailed from Miami down to the Caribbean from February the 3rd to the 10th. I've got my tea here with me. If you happen to be watching the video version of this podcast, which is available on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. If you happen to be drinking some tea, but you know what? The only reason I'm drinking tea, and I don't usually drink tea, I like spilling the tea. I spill a lot of tea with my friends. My friends and I, we spill a lot of tea. But in terms of drinking actual tea, I don't usually drink that much tea. But I did have a little bit of a tickle in my throat a couple of days after getting off the cruise. Which is not that uncommon when you're in close proximity with many thousands of other people on a cruise ship. I think on a normal cruise, you don't get as close and personal, you know what I mean, with other passengers as you do on a gay cruise with 5,000 other gay men, give or take. So little tick in my throat, so I've got some herbal tea that I'm drinking. So if you happen to be drinking tea, let's take a sip. Little ASMR for you there. All right. But while I sip on my tea throughout this podcast, since we'll be doing a lot of talking, I thought I would do, like I said, a review, a recap, a debrief of the cruise that happened just last week. I've got my laptop here. I've got my outline here. I had a lot of information. I was kind of taking notes a little bit throughout the cruise because I knew there were certain things I wanted to cover. But before we get right into all of this lovely, lovely information, I want to just say a huge thank you to every single person that came up to me and gave me feedback and thanked me for all the content that I produce, especially around all the cruise and cruise advice videos that I do put out on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. I wasn't quite expecting so many of you on the cruise to have watched my content. A truly staggering number of people came up to me, and I'm really, truly so thankful that what started off literally, when did I start this YouTube channel? It was the end of 2013, 12, something like that years ago. Math isn't my major, but it started off literally of me doing vlogs of like my daily life. And it has evolved over those years to what it has been since around 2015, 2016. That's when I got a lot more into traveling, and I met a whole lot more of kind of my current group of friends from all over the world now, and doing various parties, and then eventually doing the gay cruises. And I will always film every adventure that I went on, and I loved the cruises so much. And I started doing like advice informational videos on the gay cruises. And it's so crazy to me still, having even done it for several years now, that the words that I let fall out of my mouth, and somehow while the camera's recording and then I plop onto YouTube, it's having some tangible, hopefully positive difference on people's lives. So thank you just to everyone that came up to me, that said thank you, that told me how much you appreciated the videos, and also some of you are listening to the podcast, this podcast that I just very recently started. I think for some of the times when some of you came up to me, I might not have been, how should I say, completely sober. And I really, truly wasn't expecting so many people. I'm so appreciative, but I think it caught me a little by surprise how many people watch my stuff, that it almost made me feel like, kind of sort of caught me a little off guard. So apologies if I came off like a little awkward, but I'm just not used to like people coming up to me like I'm like famous or something like that, and I don't consider myself famous. But truly, honestly, like thank you so much to everyone. Even if you didn't come up to me, or you're just finding out about me for the first time, the fact that you're listening to my content, you're watching my videos, that means so much to me. And on top of that, I'm a big supporter of, if there are content creators you really love their content, you really love what they do, I'm a big, huge proponent of give the bitch $1. You know, which drag queen was that from? That was, I watch a lot of Drag Race, so I have these little sayings from various drag queens, but sometimes I don't remember who they come from. There's a drag queen that was performing, and then one of her lines was like, give the bitch a fucking $1. So I'm a huge proponent of, you know, supporting indie content creators. I'm an indie content creator, obviously, for YouTube. I don't do it for a living. I don't depend on it for my income, my YouTube channel and this podcast. I really just do it for fun. And it's really from the motivation that I get from all of you that leave me a comment, that hit like or the subscribe button on the YouTube, so I know that there are people that are resonating with that content. Then obviously on the times where I get to meet some of you, when you all come up to me and say how helpful the information has been to you, or like how much you like the videos, that is my motivation, my payment, if you will, for like keeping on doing the videos, keeping on doing this podcast. But some of this stuff is not free. So even if you have like $1 or $2, just like a one-time tiny little tip for the cost of like a fraction of what a latte would cost, I would super, super appreciate it if you just send me a tiny little tip, and I'd be so thankful. I kind of actually want to think of a way to give something to like people who might tip me even just like $1 or $2. I do have my Patreon, but that's kind of for the people who want to like really get updates on what my personal life is. And that's kind of like a very small subset of the people that are fans of mine. But if you just appreciate my videos, or it was helpful you, and you would like to just leave a tiny little tip, even if just like $1, like that would actually mean so much to me to help support all the content that I keep making for free. You can do either what's called a super thanks on YouTube. So go into my YouTube, any of the videos, below the video, there will be a thanks button. It's beside like the like and the subscribe buttons. You might have to like click on the little dotted menu to get to it. You can do what's called a super thanks, where you can tip me that way via on any one of my YouTube videos. Or I also have Buy Me a Coffee, which is on my link tree. That is linked down below as well. I would super appreciate it. If there's something you can think of where I can like provide you with something extra just for leaving like a little tip, comment down in the Spotify comments, or probably more easily the YouTube comments, and be like, if there's something you think my tipsters, like people who tip me, like just like a little token of thank you for their tip, I can offer them. I would love to like thank the people that leave me even just like $1 or $2. Hey, when was the last time you really took care of your skin? The skin is the largest organ in the whole human body, and is doing so much for you. It protects you from germs and cooties. It keeps you warm when you're cold. It keeps you cool when you're hot. It's making vitamin D. It gives you the gift of touch and sensation. And that's just scratching the surface, so you better take care of it. I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone, so that you can serve fun while serving face. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. Anyways, enough of me plugging my own shit and fishing for tips. Let's get on with the recap of the cruise. First of all, some basics. So we had about 5,000 passengers on this cruise, according to Atlantis, and it was a sold-out cruise. It was sold out for several months before the sailing. Roughly 2,000 of those 5,000 passengers were first-time sailors with Atlantis. Again, that stat came from Atlantis themselves. Some of the headline performers that were announced just before the cruise or during the sailing: Shangela, Monet Exchange, Jackie Cox. All three of them are drag queens from the RuPaul universe. We had Rehab for the EDM Music Festival, and Nemo opened for Rehab. Nemo is the non-binary Eurovision winner from 2024. That was very cool. As well, we have Dylan Mulvaney. If you are in the US, you might have heard about, the whole thing with like Bud Beer. But Dylan did a great show. I was there. I loved it. And also Alyssa Ray, who was a American Idol finalists. I love singers when they perform live. It just like gives you like the chills. Alyssa was awesome. So those are some of the headline performers that were announced just before the cruise, about like in the week before, or they were announced on board after we had set sail. Ports again were Saint Martin, Saint Thomas, and Labadee. Saint Thomas replacing San Juan from the original itinerary. The weather was mostly pretty sunny most of the days. There were like a day or two where it was like just like a little bit cloudy, but the temperature was pretty consistently warm. It was never cold, but it was never like super warm. It's like just warm enough that you could lay out by the pool on like most of the days, but it wasn't like warm, if you know what I mean. I guess if I had to put some numbers on it, it felt like it was in like the 80s, like 80s most of the time, which I guess for most people is like a really good temperature. It's not still but warm, but it's not cold. All right, the ship itself. You guys, we have to talk about the ship itself. Allure of the Seas from Royal Caribbean. So this ship is due for a major $100 million refurbishment. A major refurbishment. $100 million is it's a big rehab in April, 2 months from now. And that had been planned for like over a year in advance. Obviously, the big cruise lines, they have to tidy up their cruise ships every once in a while to keep them in tip-top shape. Every once in a while, they'll go into what's called a dry dock, where it goes into a dock and they drain all the water so they can kind of access every single part of the ship without the water in the way. That's going to happen in 2 months' time. And being on the ship, it felt like it really needed the rehab. The rehab couldn't come any sooner. So in most of the public spaces, when you're in the promenade, the restaurant, any of like the entertainment venues, it felt fine. But when it comes to the staterooms, definitely there were parts of the staterooms, and I visited quite a few of the staterooms. That sounded worse than what I meant. But staterooms, some of the staterooms were a little bit worse for wear. It wasn't very there wasn't anything super obvious, like wasn't like paint or wallpaper peeling off the walls or like things like that. There wasn't anything super obvious, for a ship that hasn't gone through its major refurb yet, and that one that's been sailing for a little while. It's actually not that bad. But for example, I noticed that our patio door and also the patio door on like at least a few other people's rooms, it did not seal properly. Like you would like close it properly and then lock it properly, but then like the rubber gasket like wouldn't actually like close. There'd be like a gap. So there was still quite a bit of noise that came into our room via the patio door, because our door is one of those doors where like you lock it, you seal it, and we made like really sure to have done it properly. And there was still like a gap you can see light through, because like the rubber gasket or like the door of the frame was like not square anymore, or the rubber gasket was needed to be replacing. Just things like that. Little things like that. So we're supposed to be on the Symphony of the Seas next year. I haven't looked up the details on that ship, but it's supposed to be a newer ship than the Allure, and I hope that it's undergone a refurbishment, the refurbishment somewhat recently for the Symphony ship, but the Allure just wasn't doing it. Obviously, even if we did sail the Allure like next year or whatever, it's going in for a major refurbishment in 2 months' time, just in April. So I assume we wouldn't have those issues anymore. It's not bad enough to have really affected your overall Atlantis cruise experience, but it's just like these tiny little things. Sometimes little things make a difference. It was a little annoying that, there was our patio door didn't seal. So like it just let all the sound through from like the pool deck, which is only a one deck above us. But anyways, the other thing that was really bad about the ship, the Wi-Fi. This is the worst Wi-Fi I've had on any ship. And I've been on sister ships to the Allure before. Just for whatever reason, when you're in the staterooms, the Wi-Fi signal is super hit and miss. Sometimes you can stream a video. Sometimes you couldn't even load like a basic web page or even check your emails. The Wi-Fi seemed to have worked better if you just like went out into the hallway. Seemed like the Wi-Fi would load a lot faster. So something about the Wi-Fi signal not penetrating apparently metal doors and walls that are made of metal, it just didn't worked that well. And that was only our experience in our room. We also talked to like several other people that are like, yeah, in their rooms, the Wi-Fi is like very hit and miss. So that was not great as well. So I'm hoping they do the refurbishment, they do something about the Wi-Fi. But otherwise, the RC staff were like great as usual. The general organization of like how things were ran was about what I expected, which is like pretty decent. There wasn't any significant delays or issues with on boarding day. So during the boarding process, it was like fine. And then there wasn't any significant delays for when we were disembarking the cruise on the last day either. The drink ticket pickup was something that I was worried about when you have like 5,000 passengers all needing to go to one specific area of the ship to pick up the drink tickets that are included with their fare. We went before the ship even set sail. So like after we got onto the ship, soon after we went down because we thought the earlier we go, the less busy it would be. And at least the time that we went down there, it was surprisingly well organized. And those of you that have sailed with Atlantis many times before would probably be a little surprised to hear that something was surprisingly well organized. All right, so that's the ship. I've been on this class of ships many times. This ship just it's showing wear and tear. It needs to get the refurb. So I'm glad that it's getting the refurb so that the next time we go on it, which is definitely possible, it will be nice and shiny and all fixed up. Let's talk about the food a little bit. I'm going to cover just some of the major free food options because I never went to any of the specialty restaurants. I'll touch more on that a little later on. But the buffet, well, just very generally overall, the food was better than expected. Having been on almost every other Oasis class ship before in the previous years, on the Oasis of the Seas, the Harmony of the Seas, on this Allure of the Seas I've been on multiple times. So the food generally was better than expected, but the bar was quite low. Royal Caribbean is not known for good food, but they picked it up a little bit for this particular sailing. At least the food was a little bit better than what I remember from this class of ship. So with the buffet, it tasted better than I thought. Again, the bar was not very high, but the buffet food was actually like better than what I expected and better than the average for Royal Caribbean / like this class of ship. But I always avoid, and I'll give you guys a tip, if you're on a Royal Caribbean cruise, I always avoid the grilled chicken in the buffet because it's basically chicken that they cook and then they reheat. And whenever you do that, it dries out the kitchen. It's like a piece of cardboard. So if it's like grilled chicken, that's not like already part of like a sauce, just never eat that. Otherwise, you should have a decent time. And I did. The buffet was pretty decent. Main dining, it was a little bit slow as usual, but there have been times on other sailings where like I've had way slower service, so it wasn't that bad. I've heard from some Atlantis people where they say, "Oh, you should be in and out of main dining in less than an hour." No, don't ever. No. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that because you won't. The only times you can be in and out of main dining in less than an hour is if you go like right when they open on a night where not everyone is trying to see a show at like 7 or 7:30 and you're trying to rush through the dinner at 6. Or if you go like super late when like everyone else is seeing a show while a show is going on and you go later. Usually to get through main dining, it's like an hour and 15, give or take. It's going to be like a little over an hour. So I don't like sometimes I keep hearing people say, "Oh, it's less than an hour. It's fast." Like, it's never fast. So it's a little bit slower than usual, but I've had worse. The food is actually pretty good. They still had the free lobster night. I think on this sailing, it was on Friday night. That was the free lobster tail. So it's pretty good. Sorrento's Pizza, Cafe Promenade, and Park Cafe were like the same as usual. Nothing particularly bad. Nothing super noteworthy. The pizza was pretty good. I don't do dairy anymore, so I didn't eat tons of pizza. But I did hear from a reliable friend of mine that they do vegan pizza. So I know they do gluten-free pizza, but there's a sign that says we do gluten-free pizza. And there's also another sign beside that says we do veggie pizza. But apparently, they also do vegan. But like the thing is, that means they have to make it from scratch. and you have to wait for them to bake it, which could be like 15 to 20 minutes. So, but yeah, I just had a few slices of regular pizza one of the nights with the cheese and the dairy and everything, and it was the same Sorrento's pizza I remember from every other Royal Caribbean cruise. So it was good. It hits the spot, especially during/after a party, and I was there at like 4 or 5 a.m. So that was about right. Cafe Promenade for snacks, and then the Park Cafe in the middle of the ship. The only food-related thing that I have here to mention is when we went to Labadee, and this is not anything to do with the ship itself, but Labadee is like it's like a private island that Royal Caribbean has, and there's like a whole bunch of stuff you can do. There are food and drinks in Labadee. And a very good friend of mine went to Labadee, had some of the barbecue chicken, and basically got food poisoning as far as we can tell, and missed out on white party. It was that bad. He just had to like take some like stomach meds, like he owned the bathroom. Basically he took several trips to the bathroom. And he didn't really eat dinner, and then he was just like in bed during white party, which is like a super, super big bummer. I have heard that was not an isolated experience, isolated to just this one very good friend of mine. So I don't know. I wasn't there, so like I don't have firsthand experience. This is just what I heard from a very good trusted friend, and also from some other people that I know, but I don't have any official data or firsthand experience, but that was not to do with the ship itself. That was like whatever they were doing in Labadee, as far as I can tell. So I never get off the ship, but I don't know what went on there, but I will mention it because it did affect some of my friends. All right, moving on to entertainment. We're going to talk about the Atlantis specific entertainment. So on every Atlantis cruise, Atlantis brings on their own entertainment, their own performers, their DJs. And in addition, the cruise line themselves, they always have their own shows, their entertainment, their performers as well. And usually you get a mix of the two. So there's some shows that the cruise line, Royal Caribbean in this case, they put on. So there was they had Mamma Mia for a musical. They had another show that was performed on the ice rink in Studio B. And they also had, I forgot the name of the show. They have an aquatics acrobatic diving show in the Aqua Theater in the back. They all have like funky names. But so we're not going to talk about the Royal Caribbean shows. We're just talking about the Atlantis specific shows and entertainment. So I already mentioned we had a lot of drag queens that came on. Overall, I would say there were a lot of drag queens, but I wish there was more variety in the type of entertainers and the types of shows that Atlantis brought onto this sailing. I assume Atlantis would have wanted a more diverse set of shows, but obviously it just depends on what kind of entertainers they are able to get and the schedule of the various people. So as one example, in past years, we had Todrick Hall, right? And, he did like a very like energetic show. Even if you didn't know his music, it was like a lot of dancing, a lot of singing. It was like very high energy, right? And Shangela and Monet, for example, and I love Drag Race. I love like pretty much almost any of like the RuPaul Drag Race queens, but I think drag queens are just like so talented. But Shangela and Monet, they did mostly spoken word stuff, comedy, crowd work, that kind of thing, which is great. Like, I was I sat through all of Monet's show. I was there. When I say sat through, that doesn't mean I bear through it. But like, I was there for all of Monet's show. I wasn't able to see all of Shangela's show, but it's had a conflict. But for Monet's show, she was actually really funny, and she's not necessarily known for comedy. I actually really liked her show, which is great. Like, we don't need every show to be like flips and death drops and singing and super high energy and be like, woo, woo, woo. We don't need every show to be like that. But I think on this particular sailing, it was a lot of the headliner shows lean towards like comedy, stand-up, spoken word, just more laid-back type of shows. And I just miss having something like a Todrick Hall or something that was more like higher energy, that was more like, where like maybe once in a while you would stand up on your feet. All of the shows, from all the headliners that I mentioned were kind of, you just kind of sort of like sit back and relax type of thing. A lot of it was just like spoken material, which is there's nothing wrong with it. But, you know, I would love to have more variety in terms of like when you take a step back and look at the overall entertainment program. It was just missing the bit of like variety that I was used to from most other Atlantis sailings, actually, but especially from this particular sailing where, you know, we had like so many passengers on board, and the variety would have been more appreciated, especially for this crowd, which is like a pretty diverse crowd. And I'll talk about my observations on the crowd diversity a little later on. Erotic, which I highly, strongly recommended in my CVG podcast episode that I aired on this podcast right before the cruise. Awesome, super awesome show. Great, excellent as usual. They did their thing. They played 3 separate shows actually on the last 2 nights. Miss Richfield, also she's a staple and she's on many of the Atlantis cruises. I loved her new show actually. It was really good. I saw her on the Thanksgiving cruise and I liked her so much that I went and saw her show again on this cruise, even though it was like pretty much the same. It was the same program that she had, but she does a lot of crowd work, so there's always like variety, and I love it when drag queens do crowd work and they're super funny. Not everyone's into her humor, so like that's fine if you're not, but like I love the crowd work and the shows that she did, and she was really good. There you go. That's my take on the entertainment. You can't talk about entertainment without talking about parties, so let's talk about the parties. So I was really excited going into the cruise because it had some of my favorite circuit DJs. So Dan Slater and Abel, they've played many Atlantis cruises before. I love them both. GSP, I've been to GSP's sets at various parties on land before. I heard them spun on a ship for the first time during the Thanksgiving cruise with Atlantis. And then so it was great to see him back for this particular cruise, GSP. And then DJ Surrey is one of my favorite DJs. I've heard him and seen him live many times in Spain, and also especially in like White Party Bangkok. He's done quite a few of those. So it's his first time on a cruise, and I was so excited about that. And generally, it was just really good, really reliable circuit music overall from all of the circuit DJs. And obviously, there are different people. Some people don't like circuit music. That's fine. Even people that like circuit music, there's subgenres. And I tend more towards like, play me songs that I will recognize that have vocals that I can sing along to. Just give me like remix of pop and mainstream songs that the gays are gonna know about it, understand, and will kind of sort of know the lyrics to. And by and large, there was a lot of that on this cruise. So for my taste personally, in terms of the type of circuit and dance music I like, it was great. I loved the music in the vast majority, nearly all of the dance parties that we had. Rehab, I said, was the headline music festival / EDM performer. Oh my God. So awesome. Because once again, he played so many just like pop remixes, diva pop remixes, all with vocals, all songs that we all knew and we could all jam along and sing along to, but like remixes, and it was like song after song after song of like songs that like the gays loved. It was like, and he switched up the songs like pretty quickly as well. He probably would play like about like, I don't know, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes of a song, and then he would go on to like the next song. Like he really like kept it moving, especially early on during his set. It was so good. But it was also the set that never stopped, because initially he was supposed to play for about, I think like 90 minutes, like hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But he kept going and going and going and going. But then near the end, it kind of sort of became like after hours tribal music. So like it started off super strong for the majority of the show to the heads part of it, like the first part of it, super awesome. But then when it got to like the end, like it was kind of sort of just like after hours tribal, like a beat to move your feet left and right a little bit. But anyways, overall, it was like That was my favorite party because I actually love EDM music, but again, I like to have like the EDM remixes of like pop songs that I knew and was able to sing to with the lyrics. That was like the dream ticket for me. So like 10 out of 10, like everyone that I talked to about it, they were raving about it. They thought it was like the best music, the best party of the entire cruise. Super, super, super awesome. Like I liked it so much. Not everyone knew who Rehab was going into that party. But but that party made everybody fall in love with Rehab. So my favorite part of the entire cruise was that party. And he played like a pretty long set. So that was pretty awesome. So that was what's so-called the music festival night because Nemo, again, from Eurovision, the 2024 winner, opened for Rehab. And the only thing about that music festival night, basically Nemo and then Rehab afterwards, they started really late, and I don't know why. Because me and my friends, we were kind of jamming in one of the rooms that had a balcony out to the boardwalk and the Aqua Theta. So we kind of knew exactly, we could hear all the music. We can see the stage from the balcony where we were. So we're going to basically just kind of sort of be on the patio and just jam out in the room when Nemo came on. And then eventually, once Rehab came on, then we would actually migrate down to the dance floor. We were kind of sort of pre-gaming like that. But we just waited so long. They were probably like an hour and a half late starting everything. And there was like quite a bit of a lag between when Nemo finished and when Rehab started. And me and my friends were not expecting that. I have no idea why. I didn't try to do like my sleuthing to find out why it was such like a delay getting Nemo to start, so kicking off the music festival, and then why there was like such a delay between Nemo and Rehab. But I did notice it. It did like bring down a buzz like a little bit, especially we were like waiting so long for it. But I would say I did ask a few friends, was it worth the wait? And some of them were like, Rehab is great, but like they should have just put Rehab on earlier. So they just couldn't understand why the wait was so long. Anyways. Neon Playground, I will say, has a special note here for me. Studio B is an indoor venue. That means you're at the mercy of the AC. And last year, Studio B during the Neon Playground party was so packed, it got really humid, and it was just like way too many people in there. We did not have that problem this year. At the Solarium, where most of the nighttime dance parties happen, you could actually move through the crowd even at the peak of the party. So there were like quite a lot of people there, but it wasn't so stupidly packed that you couldn't move around. The parties overall, the attendance were very good, but they were not stupidly crowded. I've been to fuller parties before where it still wasn't like that crowded on this particular ship, but the parties were very well attended. It never felt like the parties were dead at all. But it wasn't so packed like in 2024 or even like 2023. 2024 was really, really packed year, I heard. And 2023, I was on that one and was like pretty packed. It wasn't quite as packed as those last 2 years, which overall is like a good thing because the more packed it is, the more unbearable it is when it's an indoor venue in terms of like the temperature and the humidity. And also the harder it is to like move through a crowd. So I will say that. Generally, though, people kept it pretty sane. Some of you might have heard about all the alphas that were on the 2024 cruise. Alpha is something you might hear on the PA systems on a cruise ship when there's a medical emergency. There were a lot of them on the 2024 cruise in quick succession for like a short burst of it. In one of like the later, some of the later days on the 2024 cruise, we didn't have any alphas except for one, which was which we had just before disembarkation started on the very last morning. So this is like the morning where people are packed and they're getting ready to like leave the ship imminently. And I remember I was standing in line, but I had an early flight to catch, so I was in the lineup to get off the ship at like, I don't know, 7:30 or something like that. And while we were in that lineup, before anyone got off the ship, they had an alpha, which, I mean, wasn't during a party, let's put it that way. So people kept it pretty sane. Generally, I went to pretty much all the parties, and I didn't see anyone that had like very majorly overindulged, because once in a while, you go to a party, not just Atlantis, it could be like any kind of dance party, a music festival, a circuit party, whatever on land. And sometimes once in a while, you might see someone who's like very obviously like over the edge, very overindulged, things like that. I didn't really see anyone on this particular cruise. And I had seen, and that's not super uncommon to once in a while see someone like that on this particular cruise in previous years. So I would say people were on very good behavior, like by and large. And I don't really see anyone that was like super wasted, honestly, even though I pretty much went to like the bulk of most of the parties. So the crowd was, pretty good, kept it pretty chill. The only final note I have about the party is that they swapped the dog tag tea dance with the Think Pink tea dance. Dog tag tea dance is supposed to have been on the first full day or day 2 of every single Atlantis cruise. They were not able to do it on this sailing because the dog tags did not make it to Miami. So we had to push back from Miami without the dog tags. And because we didn't have dog tags, they weren't able to do the dog tags, or they chose not to do the dog tag tea dance on the first full day while we're out at sea. So with the Think Pink tea dance on day 2 instead. And then it was like day 5 that the pink tea dance was originally scheduled on. And it was day 5 that we had the dog tag tea dance. But by then we were had been in some ports, and I guess they were to like fly in the dog tags or something. Honestly, to me, I don't care what parties on what days. I mean, the party's still happening. I don't care if we have dog tags or not have dog tags, but some people are very adamant about the dog tag, so that's fine. I didn't think that much of it. Okay, can I tell you something for real? Skincare is not really a sexy topic. No one's waking up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I have to take care of my skin. I know I talk a lot on the podcast, I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of advice to give, but if you don't listen to me about anything, listen to me about this. You have to take care of yourself, and you also have to take care of your skin. I believe in it so much, and I think it's such a critical thing that I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone. And you know what? Not to toot my own horn, but people are always telling me, your skin looks so good, and I can't believe how old you are. Do you know why? Because I've been taking care of my skin for many, many years. But I know, for a lot of you, skincare just sounds like another chore. But I want to make it fun. And that's where Serve Labs comes in. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. Speaking of the crowd, and I kind of sort of touched on it a little bit, how it was not as crazy of a crowd in terms of like how hard they were partying as 2023, and definitely not as hard as 2024 last year. My friends and I were talking, I think, some of like the more dedicated partiers probably decided to take a break from this year's cruise if they were on the one in 2024, probably just because of all the alphas that were on the 2024. That is like a little bit scary. You don't know what's like happening with them. So that's just me and my friends' observations. We have no data to go on. It was just our gut feel and our opinion that, some of the more passionate, dedicated partiers probably took a break from the cruise this year. But I did see, still like a lot of like party boys and party people per se. I'm one of them this year, but it wasn't as the parties didn't go as hard as 23 or 24. Let's put it that way for comparison. But it was still a decent party crowd. Generally, though, aside from that, I felt like I saw a bit more diversity in terms of like the age range and the ethnicities of the people that were on the cruise. There are a big group of Asian guys that I actually like ran into and hung out with quite a bit. For example, so I think every year, I think the demographic changes a little bit, just like how many new cruisers we get on the different cruises changes, like every so often. But it was good for me to see that there was a little bit more diversity. But this is just through my own eyes as I wander around throughout the ship and I go to different parties. This is not from like hard data from Atlantis. But, I feel like just seeing more diversity in those areas is usually a good thing. So I was glad to see what felt like to me a little bit more diversity there. Dick Deck, yes, there was one. I didn't go to it, but I can see it from the solarium. But from the solarium, Dick Deck is just one deck above. Well, two decks above the main dance floor. But you can actually look up and kind of sort of see through the glass how packed or not packed the Dick Deck was. And there were people up there. I didn't go up there, but yeah, it was there. Just in case you were wondering, yes, there was a Dick Deck. All right. Finally, I want to talk about a little bit of the new perks that they had for this cruise, which were everybody got 21 drink tickets. Well, every stateroom got 42 drink tickets. If you had a stateroom to yourself, you got 42 drink tickets. If you were two people to a room, like most rooms, then you each got 21 tickets. They've had drink tickets before on other sailings, so they worked as they always have. It's great if you drink alcohol or soda. The thing that wasn't obvious to me before I headed into this cruise, because I had never had drink tickets before. They've done them on different Atlantis cruises, but I've never bought drink tickets before. But I didn't feel like I drink that much. But you can use it for coffee, and I love drinking lattes. And you can actually use them for lattes, and so you can't use it at Starbucks. But I found out that there were at least 3 other places on the ship: Park Cafe, Cafe Promenade, and also the Vitality Spa and Gym. At the entrance of the spa and gym, there's like a little smoothie bar, and they have a espresso machine there. And same for Cafe Promenade and also at Park Cafe. And they all serve Starbucks coffee. They have Starbucks branded cups, and they have a Starbucks logoed branded menu where the espresso machines are in all those locations. So I was like, oh, the tickets don't work at Starbucks, but I can easily just get essentially the same mocha, latte, cappuccino, whatever type of specialty coffee drink just at one of these other places, and they do take the drink tickets. So I was able to like get my latte fix and use up some of my tickets that way, because I'm not a heavy drinker. I just don't like the paper-based system because it's one more thing you have to remember to take with you. And if you forget to take it with you when you leave your stateroom and you're halfway across the ship, this is a big-ass ship. This is one of the biggest cruise ships in the world. It is not convenient to walk from one end of the ship to the other. Like if your room was in the back of the ship and you were at the front of the ship at the solarium at the party and you forgot a drink ticket, it's really annoying to have to go back to your room just to grab a drink ticket and then have to go back to the party. So Atlantis knows about this feedback because I've heard people ask Atlantis about it. And apparently they don't have a feasible way yet to just load credits onto people's accounts. I don't know if I buy that excuse because we don't have time for that, for me to go into why I think the drink tickets I just don't like paper-based drink tickets, especially on a giant ship. It's just one more thing to forget in your room, and it's just not convenient to go back to your room and get it every single time. The other perk was a specialty restaurant voucher, where the voucher was good for one lunch or dinner at any of the specialty, aka paid restaurants. David and we ended up not using ours. We did make some effort to try to book one of those, but we could never find availability for the couple of specialty restaurants we actually wanted to try out. And even with a friend, we were talking to a friend that was staying in the suite, and then we asked them, oh, why don't we all go to a specialty whatever together with the vouchers? It was like 2 of them in a suite, and there's 2 of us. And then apparently with the suites, you get like a concierge/genie person that could help you look up reservations. And even then, they weren't able to find anything open for like the next day because we wanted to do like a lunch or dinner at this restaurant, and like didn't have the availability. In the end, they opened it up so that the vouchers could also be used on the last 2 days of the cruise. Because initially they said the voucher is only good for the first 5 days of the cruise. And then like partway through the cruise, they removed that restriction. But it didn't help me or David. So like we ended up not using the vouchers. The fact that they include all this stuff but they're forcing you to buy it. They're forcing you to buy something that you may or may not be able to use. And using, like, the vouchers had a lot of fine print. Like, I'm not going to mince words. There were a lot of fine print to use in the vouchers. They were not easy to use. But, like, it's included with the price of your fare. I mean, the way I feel it is that we were forced to pay for these things that at least myself and David and I, we were not really the type people that found them easy to use, and we were not able to make full use of them. Some people, obviously, a lot of people do use up all the drink tickets, so I think that's fine. My beef with them is not that we get drink tickets. My beef is that they're paper-based. But especially restaurants thing, I guess there's just so much demand that it just outstripped the supply. There's only so many specialty restaurants. There's only so many seats. There's only so many reservations I think it takes. So, yeah, that's my little rant about those. All right. I've talked for a long time, so let's wrap it up. But for those of you who were not able to go on this cruise and were just wondering, what was the cruise like this year? And maybe by extension, should we try to book next year's cruise? Well, they do have some very basic information about next year's cruise that they told us about while we were on last week's sailing. So they are going to have this same cruise again for next year. It's going to be on the Symphony of the Seas, which is a sister ship to the Allure. So like the same Oasis class ship from Royal Caribbean, 99% identical, pretty much all the same venues, nearly all the same restaurants. So it's basically a semi-carbon copy of this ship. And it's the same class of ship, same type of ship they've sailed every year for this cruise anyways for several years. So no surprises there. It's going to be February the 1st to the 8th in 2026. And it's very most likely going to be from Miami again down to the Caribbean. They don't have many more details about the exact itinerary yet, but all they know is February the 1st to the 8th on the Symphony of the Seas, very most likely departing again from Miami. So if you're interested in booking this cruise, maybe because you decided to skip it this year or you couldn't make it this year, but you wanted to go, and you obviously then would want to maybe go for next year, or you just want to go again because you had so much fun on the one this year, those are the dates for you to save on your calendar for 2026. And I don't think it's on sale yet. I haven't checked. As I record this, I don't believe it's on sale yet. I think they still have to put the final finishes on it. Not all the details have been nailed down. But it looks like they have a ship secured for those who are interested for next year. So that's a positive sign. Obviously, when all the details about the 2026 cruise comes out, I will have all of the details and my analysis for you on that cruise right here on the Gay Cruise and Travel podcast. Again, thank you so much for everybody that came up to me on this cruise and just told me that you watched the videos and how much it helped you guys out. I really super appreciated it. Sorry if I was like not 100% with it because I may or may not have had some drinks by the time you talked to me. But it was really so great. I was not expecting so many of you to have watched my stuff. It is actually like a little surreal to me that so many people watch my videos still. But again, if you would love to just leave me like $1 here, $1 there. I have the super thanks on the YouTube channel all set up. So there's a little thanks option below every YouTube video on my YouTube channel, just Joey T. And then on my link tree, that's linked down below, I also have Buy Me a Coffee. I would appreciate any like spare change you guys have to help me support this channel and keep the content free for everybody out there to enjoy. But until next week, when we have a new episode of the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast. By the way, if there's some sort of gay cruise or travel topic you want me to talk about, just comment down in the comment section. I will see it, and then you never know. It could be the topic of the next episode of the podcast. But until then, bye, y'all.